Friendship with Persona is over. Shin Megami Tensei is my new best friend. All jokes aside though, I notice an interesting contrast between Persona and SMT is that Persona is about forming unbreakable bonds and the value of human interaction, while SMT is about getting betrayed by your friends and how people kinda suck. But believe it or not, Persona wasn't always just a series where your friends always suck up to you and put up with your BS. You could make your friends hate you. You've probably heard what I'm talking about before, but for those of you not in the know-how, in Persona 3 and 4 to a small extent, choosing the wrong thing to say in a social link can result in your affinity with that character's arcana reversing. The implications for what exactly this means is not made entirely clear upon it first happening, so allow me to clarify here. We'll start with the most obvious way to trigger it. Choosing a bad dialogue choice while hanging out with the social link character will make them upset with you, resulting in a reverse social link. This is indicated by the tarot card for that character's arcana flipping upside down. This is referred to as the card's reverse position in fortune telling, usually indicating something bad's gonna happen. But what does that actually entail? Well, that varies from game to game. I'm not gonna summarize every breakup the protagonists in these games have, I'm just gonna explain how the mechanic comes into play. In Persona 3 Reload, you won't be able to score social link points with that character for a while. You have to walk up to that character in their usual spot on 3 separate occasions before they forgive you, and you can proceed with the social link as normal. However, even upon forgiving you, you gotta wait until the next time they're available to hang out with them again. None of your attempts at getting their forgiveness will use up your day activity. This can only happen with Yukari and Chihiro. There's actually an instance of a scripted reverse for the Moon social link at rank 9. This is not in the original Persona 3 or FES, but also virtually affects nothing as it will unreverse itself shortly after. You may be thinking, wow, that doesn't sound too harsh. This is the most recent implementation of this mechanic, mind you. As we go further back, you'll find that the ramifications of mistreating your friends can be much greater than you might expect. Persona 4 is more or less the same story as Persona 3 Reload, but there is an additional layer to it. For one, social link. You can reverse Naoto's social link in a similar fashion to Yukari and Chihiro in Persona 3, but reconciling requires a high expression stat on your main character. However, you only need to talk to her once this time. This will use up your day activity though. Then, there's Aya Bihara. Like Naoto, you can reverse her with a single dialogue option in rank 3 of her social link. However, there's actually a way to damage your relationship even further. Later on in rank 6, I will offer you the chance to start dating her. It does not end well. Don't get me wrong, it's not the worst breakup ever. If anything, it does a good job illustrating that sometimes relationships just don't work out. This doesn't just have the potential to reverse the social link, however. This can lead up to breaking the social link at rank 9 if you ask her for some space after she breaks up with you. A broken social link not only prevents you from progressing the link, but also prevents you from fusing any personas of that character's arcana. This means no moon personas. The way you mend the broken link is largely the same as with Naoto's reversed one. Talk to her with a high enough expression stat, and you'll immediately revert it back to normal. Although this won't use up any time, you won't be able to hang out with her until the next time she's available. Something similar exists in Persona 3 Portable for the Femc Root Star social link. Once again, it happens at rank 9, but doesn't require anything prior to that rank, unlike with I in Persona 4. If you choose to divert the conversation away from Akihiko's feelings for the protagonist, then you can avoid this completely. However, choosing to bring attention to it will then lead to him asking you out. Choosing to reject him here will break your social link, even as he tries his best not to be sad about it. Ouch. Most of you probably haven't encountered this, but Akihiko will actually have special dialogue outside of his social link if it's currently broken. Here are a few examples from a text dump provided to me by the Femc Reload mod team. He's especially sore about it at Christmas time. The social links for the male route are the same as Reload, I actually learned as I'm writing this that the Nozomi fake-out reversal originated from this version of the game. So now that I've given you a general sense of how this mechanic works, I can ease you into more of the other specific conditions for reversing social links. This is probably the part that most of you were waiting for. So now I think it's about time we finally tackle the origins of the reverse and broken social link mechanics. Persona 3 and Persona 3 FES are sorta infamous for having the most punishing social links. Not just because of a certain controversial dialogue choice that was changed in Reload, but more so because of the systems in place. Originally, almost all social links, aside from the ones that rank up automatically through story, could be reversed. In Persona 3 FES, your friends can feel neglected. One of the more easily avoidable ways to trigger this is by getting invited by a friend, then later canceling with that person to hang out with another friend. The other way is by not spending time with them for 60 in-game days. While you won't be able to rank them up over the summer, thankfully your friends will invite you for normal hangouts plenty of times over summer break, which will circumvent this. You don't actually need to rank them up to keep them happy. If we left it at just that, these would be pretty reasonable restrictions, and the punishment would feel deserved. However, this threshold will not be the same for all of your social links. Something worth noting is that originally, the developers did not expect the player to max out every social link, let alone every girl social link. Based on the experiences of director Katsura Hoshino and art director Shigenori Soejima, they said they never formed any true friendships with girls growing up. Now, how you define a true friendship will obviously vary from person to person. I guess it really depends on where you draw the line between friend and just an acquaintance. I know a lot of people like to meme on this quote, but honestly, I actually kinda get what they're saying. Sure, I talked to girls growing up. We'd help each other with assignments. You could even say that we were friendly with each other. But I was not hanging out with them in my free time outside of school. I can't in good conscience say I had any true friendships with girls until college. So I guess this is what they meant when they said it was hard for them to imagine going that out of your way for the girl characters outside of a romantic context. All this to say, this resulted in every social link with a girl going in an intimate direction after a certain point in their storylines. Now, obviously having platonic options for all the girls is better, but I can at least understand their mindset during the process of making this game. It just wasn't a thing they thought about. So what exactly changes when you reach that point in a girl's social link? The game simply tells you that she might get upset if you hang out with another girl. This actually works off the neglect mechanic I mentioned earlier. When you hang out with another girl, the jealous girl's neglect counter will actually go down by 15 days for each time you do it. So if you're out here hanging out with Fuka, Yukari, and Yuko all at the same time, Chihiro's patience is gonna run out really fucking fast. This results in most girls, except for Aigis because she's your submissive robot GF, to have very tight neglect thresholds. This can result in an automatic reverse with no announcement. Portable tries to insinuate that girls can get jealous in that game too, but the jealousy mechanic is completely absent there. So for non-romantic reversals, that is, for boys and girls who haven't reached the romantic stage yet, mending your relationship is as easy as going to the shrine and praying for them. This will use up your day activity, but it's pretty merciful in the grand scheme of things. This will not work on a girl who is jealous though. Even if you try, the game will straight up tell you that you need to talk things out. Keep in mind reverse social links in FES will be in different locations than their usual spots. Something I actually didn't know until working on this video is that there are actually different variants of these apology scenes. I found footage of characters talking it out over coffee on YouTube, and of course, there's the more confrontational version that takes place on the school roof. From here, you can either mend your bond immediately and proceed as usual the next time you see her, or you could break your social link, which will require even more time to recover. This will then lead you to needing to talk to them 3 times, just like in Persona 3 Reload. When she finally budges, you need to avoid choosing the wrong dialogue option, and you'll be home free. I think even multiple choices in these interactions are acceptable, but most people probably won't even reach the point of breaking a social link in this game, even on their first playthrough. One thing worth noting is that once a social link is maxed, it can never be reversed. You are only bound by the number of girl social links that have reached the romantic phase, which doesn't happen until rank 5 at the earliest to like rank 7 at the latest. So, don't panic. Just take it at your own pace. If someone gets reversed, don't feel like you need to rush. Just come back to them when you feel ready. So at this point, you've probably noticed a huge lack of Persona 5, and that's because this mechanic was never used in Persona 5. But it does exist in the game's code though. It's not uncommon knowledge nowadays that Persona 5 was originally going to have its own equivalent of reverse social links. It seems the plan was to have the mechanic function more or less the same as in Persona 3 FES. Neglecting a confidant for an unknown amount of days would result in that character starting to lose trust in the protagonist, and your confidant will be in a state of doubt. The player will not be able to use any of that confidant's perks. And considering how disgustingly overpowered some of them are, that's a pretty big game changer. Just like Persona 3 FES, there are actually 2 variants of these confrontational scenes. It's unknown whether the game would give you some sort of indication your confidant was in jeopardy before initiating these conversations, or if the player would just be hit with these scenes the next time they try to engage with them after neglecting them for long enough. The doubt mechanic was unfinished, so there are no opportunities to gain your confidant's trust back, and the game actually does let you still rank them up despite what it tells you. This would only happen with social links outside of your party. Mishima does not have one, although it is unknown whether it's because they didn't get far enough or they just weren't planning to have one for him. The reason for scrapping this mechanic is unknown. It could have been due to time restraints, or maybe they just didn't think the player base would like it, as it was quite controversial in Persona 3. This raises the inevitable question: is the reverse social link mechanic too harsh? Or maybe, has it become too lenient? There's obviously a reason why reverse social links were considerably dialed back. Its original implementation in Persona 3 was way too punishing and inconvenient. But does that justify the removal of this idea entirely? The modern Persona games are all about nurturing bonds. One of the best things about this series is how it portrays people and human interaction. I know what it feels like to be neglected or ghosted by people who I was once good friends with. It's not at all the same as simply growing apart from an old friend over time. Hashino and Soejima compare maxing out your social links to having a childhood friend that sticks with you for life. You may rarely ever talk to or get to see that person nowadays, but that's still the type of person you know you can approach without any awkwardness or hard feelings about not keeping up over time. You can't say the same thing about people who've abandoned you. I think the consequences of neglecting your friends is an important part of the social experience that should absolutely be included in this game about the social experience. That's not to say it should be implemented exactly the same as Persona 3 FES, that's not at all what I want. Flaking out on your friends to hang out with someone else or ignoring them for 60 days is completely reasonable to punish. Hell, I'm not even entirely against there being a punishment for choosing to date multiple girls at once. Pacing your social link progress so that romantic phases don't overlap with each other debatably adds an interesting layer to the time management aspect. But obviously, that shouldn't be forced upon the player. It should be a self-inflicted challenge for anyone who chooses to take that route. To be honest, having platonic branches for every dateable social link kind of already fixes the problem. And we've had them for years at this point. The fandom seems way too fixated on the idea of maxing out every social link in one playthrough, which I'd argue is a factor holding back the potential for social links as a whole. They gotta keep storylines simple, conflicts need to resolve themselves easily. It's almost kind of a disservice. I think reverse social links are worth giving another shot. And no, I don't mean just giving every social link a very obvious, horribly offensive answer you'd have to go out of your way to choose. I mean moments like Yukari in the original Persona 3, or Ai in Persona 4, where I can realistically see people making an honest mistake. Sometimes you're in the wrong, sometimes you make horrible miscommunications. Maybe the other party overreacted and is partially to blame too. It's important to let the player know when they're wrong. But even then, it's less about whose fault it is, and more about showing the value and effectiveness of a sincere apology. Bruh, you don't even have to apologize to Yukari to make up with her in Reload. These characters are so sweet about it too, and they apologize in return. Not having the decency to respond in kind feels so one-sided. People complain about having to choose the answers that a character agrees with to advance the social link faster, but are seemingly okay with the idea of social link characters just being doormats for the player. Some of the most powerful and impactful moments in this series are the character drama moments. Sometimes that will entail the characters fighting, and seeing that slowly fade away from the series over time, softening major conflicts and having everyone talk in therapy speak, trivializing hitting a bump in your friendships as they're just kinda cranky, just wait it out and you'll be fine. It just makes me kinda sad.